Hello, my name's John, filmmaker and mildly experienced walker, and in the summer of 2022, I decided to go on another adventure. I wanted to walk a 150-mile route around the magnificent county of Oxfordshire. There'll be highs.
I'm easily within walking distance from home right now.
And lows.
It's both sun and rain right now.
And lots of walking. Please enjoy this episode of the series I've so inventively called Walking Oxfordshire. Now in the final 25 miles of my journey around Oxfordshire, I was in Thame. During the major section of my walk back in May, I failed to make it there on the day I was meant to, meaning I had to get a bus from Oxford. Fortunately for me, I found time the next month to complete that part of the walk.
But I finally officially walked from Oxford to Thame. I can put that chat to bed now.
The big reason I decided to skip the day was so I had enough energy to walk these last two legs until I finished the journey at Caversham Bridge. The first of these legs being an 18-mile southward journey to Henley. The walk started from the Travelodge at the far north of Thame. Yesterday ended very disappointingly. Well, actually, it went disappointingly. It didn't just end, it went disappointingly. But that was all in service of today. Because today is without question the biggest day of the walk. While the distance I was covering this day wasn't as long as the first leg from Reading to Didcot, back then I didn't have the exhaustion I had by this point. The plan for it would be leaving Thame via the B4012, joining the A40 near Postcombe, then crossing under the M40 via a very famous walking route. From there, it was a series of minor roads through the Chiltern Hills until the big A4130 into Henley. The nearby settlements of Chinner and Watlington, places I'd wanted to pass today, I decided to skip, as by this point of the walk, I was done for. I didn't want to add any unnecessary length to the day. Even with the route looking as it does right now, I questioned if I'd even make it to Henley that evening, but starting at 7 in the morning, I hoped would give me enough time to make it there before the hour grew too late.
Today is going to be a struggle. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Today is going to be a struggle. I'm a quarter of an hour in and I'm already limping, but I have to do it. There's no alternative today. I have to do it. Double checked. We're definitely following this road down all the way to near the M40. I'm going to double check now because I feel getting lost between Banbury and Bicester, that ruined all my confidence. So I'm going to double check now to make sure I'm on the right road. We lost the footpath. I knew it was going to happen at some point, didn't expect it to be so soon. I think today it'll be a good 80% without a footpath, so I've got to get used to it.
The footpaths weren't the only issue I'd face. The road I was currently on had more bends than any other on this trip, making it very difficult to safely walk along it. I still had just about enough self-preservation to cope with this though, so I pushed on.
So I'm just going to put some times on the board. 2 o'clock is the absolute earliest I can possibly be there, I think. Never going to happen. 5 o'clock's what I'm aiming for. 6 o'clock's reasonable. 7 o'clock's not that. 8 o'clock's worst case scenario. Thing is, tomorrow, very short day of walking. If I'm very late, it doesn't really matter. I don't see a better place to take my first break than the junction for the A40. Third time we've been on this road actually. Yeah, about 2 hours in real time, hour and a half according to Google Maps. On paper, a quarter of the way there. Also, there's a footpath here, which is very nice. I don't know how long it goes on for up that way. Probably not very long, but it's good to have a footpath. On a day like this, it's good to have a footpath. So far, not amazing to be honest. Feet are hurting a lot. My ankle's alright, my neck's gonna get worse. Everything's gonna get worse, but yeah, it's bottom of my feet that are bad. This was the easiest quarter by far. This will be the easiest quarter I do today. About 9:15, 9:20. Good idea to take a break. Yeah. Continue up the A40 in a minute.
During this break, another problem presented itself.
While I was taking a rest, there was a huge cloud that came over and it just started raining, so I put my rain gear on. To be fair, they did forecast rain for later on today, and it was looking like it was going to rain today for quite a few days in the last week, so I'm not surprised. It's not sunny, could be a lot worse. Starting to see the second biggest obstacle between me and Henley. Of course, number one being the time and how long it takes to get there. Number two is the hills in the distance, and those are the Chiltern Hills. It doesn't come across on camera, but that really is steep on the horizon. Of course, we've already come through the Chilterns, all the way back at the very start of the walk. So we are now starting to come full circle, but it's not going to be as easy as the first day.
Remember all the way back in the first episode when I crossed the ridgeway near Wallingford and said this?
Because of the nature of this walk and I'm walking around Oxfordshire, it does mean that I will cross the ridgeway again at some point.
Well, now in the final episode and second to last leg, I found myself back on the historic route.
And good news is, we're going to be walking part of the ridgeway today. I know. You're very excited, I am. It's a good thing we're here. It means we're leaving the A40 as soon as the footpath ends, which is very handy. Oh yeah, ridgeway. We're walking part of the ridgeway.
Just in case you don't know, the ridgeway is a 5,000-year-old, 87-mile-long trail from Ivinghoe Beacon in eastern Buckinghamshire to near Avebury Stone Circle in Wiltshire. Any self-respecting long-distance walker should attempt to walk the trail at least once, and I do indeed plan to at some point. However, right now, I wanted to walk a very short stretch of it, as it formed part of the most direct route from Thame to Henley.
Under the M40, and this will be the last time we cross the M40 on this trip. So yay! It's always a bit eerie when you're under a motorway, I feel. Still on the ridgeway, and the M40 is now safely on the other side of us. And now see what we're doing from here. Okay, so this is where we leave the ridgeway. We will walk the whole thing one day. I think it's going back onto the A4. After I crossed the ridgeway that time was when the walk started to get really hard. And not just hard, like really hard. And I fear the same might happen. I'm a little worried. I'm worried.
Not too much further on from this point, I started the long hike up the Chiltern Hills. Referencing the steepest hill I've ever climbed, I said this.
I think that hill near Maple Durham's found a challenge. This is one of the steepest hills I've ever climbed. It just goes on and on and on. The view's quite good though.
The view was admittedly pretty decent. Nearby, the M40 runs through a cutting in the hills and is quite a striking image. Sadly, however, I must say, from this point on, the views aren't that great. In fact, in accordance with the views getting worse, I must give you a bit of reality of my long distance walks. Any walk can look good when edited with a piece of soothing guitar music played underneath it, but when I'm doing it on the day, by myself, this is what I'm faced with. Imagine that, 9 hours a day for 10 days. Just me, my mind, the road, nature, and the occasional passing car. You have every right to call me totally mad for doing these walks. But honestly, I wouldn't have walked most of Oxfordshire if I wasn't already comfortable with this reality from my experience on the A4. At the end of the day, I just suppose I'm good at keeping myself company with my own imagination. Back onto today's walk, now over halfway through it, I found myself at the wonderfully named Christmas Common.
Not very Christmassy. I think they've heard that joke a billion times by now. According to the sign which I just passed, which is the first sign I've seen Henley, I need to go kind of southwest. But according to Google Maps, there's this road here, which I'm currently on, which essentially cuts off a huge chunk of the journey. It's just a straight road to the road which just goes straight down to Henley.
The road that I'd be following for the next 2 miles was a restricted byway through farmland. It had the upside that it was a direct route to the road to Henley, but it had the downside of not being well maintained.
The rocks on the ground, it makes it really uncomfortable to walk on. If you haven't noticed, I'm currently off the path. I'm in a field of some kind. I think once I've done this, this will be the hardest objective part of the day done. I've just got normal roads to do after this, but I can't guarantee that entering Henley I won't be really impatient to get to the hotel. Well, hotel? I don't think I've said yet. The hotel in Henley is the Caversham, which is a Wetherspoons. So yeah, I'll be staying at a Wetherspoons tonight. Not just in the pub. It is actually a hotel. It's got a Wetherspoons in it, or it's a Wetherspoons with a hotel. It's one of those two.
I must be honest, the thought of being under the same roof as a Wetherspoons that evening was definitely part of the motivation for me walking further. If I haven't made it clear by now, I love Wetherspoons. Yes, they have their faults, but come on, where else can you get a cheap pint nowadays? Anyway, back in the Chilterns, what goes up must come down.
We're coming up to a bit that goes downhill quite steeply. I hope it doesn't go drastically uphill again. You can never be too safe. In an uphill stretch, it's a bit painful. I don't want to do it again. I got 3 villages to do before Henley, which is about 6 miles. Can I do it? You'll have to watch this episode to find out. Not too far away from the main road now. It's just down that road. Pretty much just down the road. And then I get to Henley. So yeah. Hardest leg of the walk gets its name from. Every step is hurting even more, and painkillers aren't doing anything. I don't know what time I'll get there. We're pushing it back up to 6, I think. We made it to Henley. I was always excited today about walking from Thame to Henley. I knew it was going to be a struggle, but it's a good challenge. I'm not going to speak too soon, but I know where I'm walking tomorrow. I know exactly where everything is in relation to everything else. It should be quite simple tomorrow.
You might think I'm speaking too soon, but Henley does mark the edge of my stomping grounds. I'll talk more about it later, but the southernmost parts of Oxfordshire is where a lot of my early long distance walks went through. If I could do them then, I could do them now. And by now, I mean 18 miles that day, with a horribly injured ankle and feet which felt like they'd been put through the ringer 4 times over.
Oh, that sign there, first one I've seen for Reading since Wantage. And it means a lot more because I'm heading in that direction tomorrow. Also, this roundabout here, I actually walked from my home. And the furthest I got from home was beyond that roundabout, so I am easily within walking distance from home right now. Oh yeah, that was a walk I did in mid-2020. Oh, how times have changed. I thought 10 miles then was a long distance. Oh wow, I do 19 now. the road now from the Catherine Wheel. It's been a long day. It's very nearly over. The next shot you see, I'm going to be entering my room, I think.
Sorry for how abruptly I seemed to end up in Henley, but there came a point when I got to the Catherine Wheel that the whole week and a half of walking caught up with me, and I couldn't work up the energy to film anything for the rest of the day. But that evening, I had plenty of beer, a good meal, and a bed less than 5 minutes away from the bar. What a way to end one of the hardest legs I've ever done, and when I woke up for the next, I was incredibly optimistic.
Oh, we're in Henley. Currently in the Wetherspoons Hotel, and it's one of the weirdest, well, it's definitely the weirdest hotel room I've stayed on this trip. As you can tell, it's got wooden beams on the top, and it's got this weird entrance, and a little window down there. I probably should also say I'm sorry I didn't get any footage last night. As you could tell, I was so exhausted yesterday. It took an hour for me to work out the energy to even put the footage onto my laptop when I got in. But yeah, anyway, not too long till we set off as always, and then we'll start walking home. It's the last day of the Oxfordshire walk, and we saved probably the best for last.
The short distance was certainly a good thing about the day. Even leaving the Catherine Wheel at around 10:30 left me with more than enough time to make it to Caversham Bridge before late afternoon. The plan for the final day would be to walk southwest from the town, along several country roads to Binfield Heath and Dunstan Green, before joining the A4155 at Playhatch and following that towards Caversham. Upon setting off for the day, I walked for a short while around Henley.
I just need to let you know, it is slightly raining right now, I've only just left, but it's crazy to think though, this is the Thames obviously. On the other side of it's Berkshire. We've come full circle around Oxfordshire. Oh, pretty much. Nearly enough. We've got about 8 miles. I could walk the Thames path up to Sonic, but I've done it before. Well, one, I've done it before. And two, the Thames path might be another Ridgeway situation. I might do that at some point. Yeah, we're cutting in now. Might have to do it a couple more hills. I don't mind. Not a long day today. Today is really weird with the weather. For one, it's very, very hot in the sun, and secondly, there's just rain clouds scattered all over the place. So I don't know what the weather's going to be from one minute to the next.
Not too much further on from this, the rain started, and I took shelter in one of the most bizarre places I've ever found.
Okay, what am I doing in a phone box? It's raining. I know it's only going to be a short shower though, so I could just take cover in here for about 5 minutes. Oh, it's hail. That's hail. That's not rain, that's hail.
I think the fact I didn't even care that it was hailing speaks volumes as to how little anything affected me on this walk now. After around 145 miles of walking, these last few would prove to be very uneventful. That didn't stop me from filming the rest of my journey though.
Both sun and rain right now. It's the first time it's happened, it's the worst of all worlds. Glad it's on this leg and not any of the others.
Luckily, neither the rain nor the sun were as intense as they had been in the other legs of the walk, so that allowed me to get to a village that's very close to my heart, Dunstan Green.
Yeah, this is where I wanted to end up. Well, one of the places I wanted to end up today other than the end of Oxfordshire and Reading itself and Caversham Bridge and home. Why this place, a specific place? Back when I first started doing long distance walks, this was one of the first places I really discovered, and I just liked walking there, and this is a good stopping point, this picnic bench. There's not really a lot special about it, but just this place here was where one of my first long distance walks involved. It means a bit to me, this bench.
From this point on, I started to see signs that I was nearing Reading.
That there in the background is the Blade, the tallest building in Reading. I never thought I'd be here. I know probably a couple of you might be asking, am I sad to be finishing this walk? No. I mean, to be fair, even though the series has been going on for a few weeks, the actual walk that I've done, it's only been 11 days since I did the Didcot leg. Obviously though, like with the A4, the walk was only the beginning, the editing is where it's going to kick off. I should start seeing signs for the last village we'll get to, and then signs we're entering Caversham.
after the Playhatch roundabout, I found myself at confirmation that I had just walked full circle around Oxfordshire.
Oh my word, that's it. That is the border between Oxfordshire and Reading. We have just walked full circle around the county. Wow, can't believe it. Wow.
Finally, after 149, maybe 150 miles, I was back where I started, Caversham Bridge.
And so, we have ended where we began, on Caversham Bridge. I'm so happy I've done it. Trouble is, I'm terrible at closing out a series. I think I'll let narration do it.
So, I'd done it. I'd walked around the entire county of Oxfordshire. Were there low points? Absolutely. I'm still in the relatively early stages of long distance walking, but was I impressed? Without question. Oxfordshire has always held a place close to my heart even before this series, but now having circled it on foot, it has truly become a jewel in the country in my eyes. From the new towns of Didcot and Bicester, the historic settlements of Wantage and Burford, the North Wessex Downs, Cotswolds and Chilterns, the northernmost southern town of Banbury, Oxford itself, all of the people and scenery. I loved my time here, and I hope you've seen glimpses of that in this series. Would I recommend laboriously hiking every single square foot of the county? Not at all. Would I recommend walking the route I did? Only if you're just like me. But would I recommend you take a trip out in the county sometime soon? Absolutely. I hope you've enjoyed walking Oxfordshire, and as I put it myself at Caversham Bridge.
What's next? Obviously the editing's next, but what's next? Where next?
What's next? What's next? See you for the next walk.